What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Tuesday edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. That's Colby Cohen. I'm Johnny Lazarus, and Frank Seravalli will be joining us here shortly for today's show. We're going to get into Ivan Demidov's debut last night in Montreal against the Chicago Blackhawks. That was the game that I was glued to outside of the Rangers and the Panthers. Colby, I know you tuned into the late night game last night, but how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, Johnny. I'm doing well.
Basically starting to look good, or the office is starting to look good?
Yeah, I'm just honestly, I really don't know how I'm gonna set up in here. I just started getting stuff out of the bags. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'm just surrounded by bags and different things. So I got to figure that out. And so it's good. It's good to settle in a little bit. Moving's a pain in the ass, but it's nice when it all starts coming together. But there was some drama last night, which was kind of nice in the NHL. There was things going on. It wasn't your typical game 80 or 81 where everyone's just trying to get to playoffs, because there's still implications between what happened with the Blackhawks last night in the shootout.
Yeah.
And what happened in the late game, and then like what happened in the post game of the late game with Edmonton and LA. I mean, that series, seemingly today, everybody's seeing what's gone on social media and what Danault said and how Corey Perry responded. So there's a lot of drama building up already.
What side are you on?
We'll get there later in the show. Honestly,
We'll see that for Frank.
We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. And then the other thing I wanted to say, and the way that we ended yesterday's show, if you remember correctly, was which rookies going to step in and have an impact. And I got to tell you something: a goal and an assist in your first National Hockey League game. Certainly makes you wonder if that's the guy. And, he obviously had a nice little effect on that hockey game, just stepping right into the National Hockey League.
But did you see also on Chicago's third goal on his back check, he doesn't even like move his feet like at the far blue line. And I forgot who scored the goal, but it was basically a breakaway in, from like the red line. But again, like these are things that Demidov is going to have to learn. Like, it's his first game in the league. We saw his offensive flair, and there's going to be criticisms. Luckily for Montreal, that wasn't the game-winning goal. They were able to find one late. Lane Hudson made a great play again late in the game. Found Cole Caulfield. I think that was his 65th assist. Right? That's officially the most points for a defenseman in franchise history.
I don't think is it 65 points or assists? Did he hit his 65th assist?
Right, assists. And Reichel scored the goal. Jeremiah, let me know. Thank you, Jeremiah. 65 assists it was, because I saw Cole actually posted on his Instagram this morning. And Cole Eiserman was at the game. Cole Hudson was at the game.
Well, they went to see Ryan Green make his debut for the Blackhawks.
Oh, yeah, and Lane, I'm assuming too, right?
Yeah, well, I mean that kind of goes without saying. But so he has 65 points, Johnny. 59 assists. Points? Okay, it's 65 points. That didn't sound right to me. And how about the fact that he's gotten all the way back down to a -2? Like he was on Commodore's gold jacket or green jacket board early in the season, and he's worked his way all the way back down to -2, which again, I know a lot of people think plus minus is a bullshit stat, and there's some truth to that, but I just think when you have the big outliers and you see a guy who is minus a lot and then he works his way back to even, clearly he's doing something a little bit different. So let's
and he played all 81. He's played all 81, which I think is pretty
before we start diving into the topics, because I think some of these topics we can bounce around with Frank, and we can start with the rookie conversation about which rookie has the opportunity to be the most impactful. Why don't you read Frank in and let's bring him onto the show.
So before we bring Frank on, just want to give a quick word from our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care. Made in Italy since 1948, Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15. And Frank, good morning. What is that? What do you got on there?
Just a pullover with a The dice are a golf tournament that I play in every year.
I wasn't sure if that was an Outwest quarter zip that they just gave, but
I need more of those. Kind of
yeah,
send more.
We'll hook you up with those. But how you doing this morning? And I'm actually curious, where are you heading for the first round? Are you traveling for the first round of the playoffs?
I don't believe so. So I'm going to be doing it from the home base.
Mm-hmm. Colby?
Yeah, Frank. I mean, we were just starting to get into, Ivan Demidov's debut a little bit last night. And the last thing I said to everybody on the show yesterday, looking for input from the chat as well here. But, of these rookies that have come right out, we talked about Ryan Leonard, thought he would be really impactful right away. He hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been impactful. Like, I think that's a fair statement.
Mm-hmm.
Demidov looks like he's going to get to play in they're a playoff team most likely. Obviously, it's not a guarantee, but it's most likely. And then Zeev Buium, I would say, the other guy who's going to play, and then Nishkin actually, and that's the biggest question mark to me. Like, I have no idea about him. Haven't really seen him at all, other than highlights on social media, which certainly not going to make a judgment about from that. But I'm curious from your standpoint, Frank, who do you think of that group of players could have the most impact on his team in the first round of the playoffs?
I think if I had to rank them in terms of likely impact, I would likely go Demidov 1, Buium 2, Leonard 3, Nikishin 4.
It is Nikishin, by the way, because I feel like everyone I've heard says it differently.
That's how I was told it was. And look, part of the reason my rankings are in that order is because in talking to some sources that have watched SKA very closely, Nikishin is someone who's a little bit more understated. Really solid player, smart player. Isn't going to put himself in situations where he's going to be in trouble, and is a really, like, he's for the long haul. Not that none of these guys are, not that they're flashing the pan guys or anything like that. More so that he's going to be more subtle. Like, he's not going to punch you in the face with a goal and an assist in his first game. It's not going to be anything like that. Demidov, that was the first word that I got back, was don't be surprised if he makes an immediate impact and looks good right away. I think it's going to be real interesting to see how that matches up with Zeev Buium over the long haul, because I think from a today right away standpoint with the Minnesota Wild, like I think what we could be talking about here is right away the same level of impact that Brock Faber had.
Mm-hmm. And
that part, I think when you look at that, I mean, that's game changing. You add a top pair defenseman to your team right away. I mean, that's huge. So Leonard, you guys, Colby, you'd know better than me. I think with his big body and the speed of the game, it's just going to take a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say, like, I thought because Leonard's physicality in his game, I thought he would adjust quicker. And it's not like we're being fair. We're asking these teenagers to just come in and impact the NHL right away out of a college season. So I don't think any of this is fair, but it's just reality. And I just think Leonard has, maybe I don't want to say just taken up space, but he's not done anything that has said, like, I can have a positive impact and I need to play over guys who have been in this league. Although I do think he'll get the first crack at the lineup going into playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've got to stick with it. Like, I think you don't want to send the wrong message to a guy that you obviously believe in. And again, we're talking about the next 10 to 15 years, not the next 10 to 15 games. And that's something to keep in mind.
Well, no, I think the question was, right, Colby, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the initial conversation that we were having before you hopped on, Frank, was like, who's going to make the biggest impact this,
like who
and first round of the playoffs and last stretch of this year.
Demidov goes for 1-1 last night, but Johnny was quick to point out, like, his lapses defensively were costly for them. And the playoffs, this is the difference between winning and losing a season, winning and losing a series. And so you can't really have the defensive lapses. You can't just stop skating on a back check. You can't just not pick your man up. I'll just tell you this quickly, like from thinking back to my first few games in the National Hockey League, like the hardest thing was that you can never, not even for a millimeter of a second, fall asleep defensively, because all that has to happen is you just take your eye off things defensively for 1 second. Somebody is good enough to make you look bad and to get on the wrong side of you and score a goal. And I'm sure you have something sarcastic to say.
I was going to say, what do you mean your first few games? You only got 4.
Well, I'm just saying in those games, you know what I mean? Like you think about what didn't go well, what did go well. And that was the craziest thing to me. Like playing with the puck, even for me, was not an issue. If I were to go back and dissect my tape from those games, like no issues finding guys open, no issues playing with the puck, no issues breaking pucks out. The defensive side of the puck, though, like just having to train your mind to be like on such a different level of focus. And I think that's where guys who are young have a difficult time.
I agree. I think one thing that was interesting about last night was that Demidov has this electric debut, right? Like the skills are off the charts. Then you get to the weirdest shootout maybe we've ever seen. And why does Demidov not get selected? Like you saw Marty St. Louis kind of give him a pound on the back, and then it seemed like he indicated that he was going to be shooting at some point. Why wasn't he in your top 3? I mean, this is a guy that you don't need to worry about defensive lapses in a shootout. There are none.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going to talk about
the other thing.
So
Frank, the other thing about what happened last night in the shootout, from somebody that I was talking to at the National Hockey League level that has a lot of experience working in officiating, he said that the video person upstairs in the building is supposed to tell them and give a thumbs up on the goal, and like the fact that the next shooter got a chance to start without this goal ever being thumbs up or thumbs down. That's where the failure was in this. But
that's not where the failure was.
They did feel like
the failure was in both of these guys standing on the goal line and not signaling a goal. That's the failure.
I get it,
right here?
But hold on a second. You have a fail-safe in the building for human error, which clearly that was human error.
How
does that get through
someone also said the Blackhawks broadcast, though, called it a goal.
How does that get through 3 layers? So basically, the refs miss it. Okay, they shouldn't have missed it, but I'm going to go and just say, okay, fine. You have somebody who works in the building that is supposed to clear that goal. Where's the breakdown in the failure?
Oh my God, that's not that person is not the failure here.
Oh, 100%. You're
100%. Okay, look, here we go. So I'm on NHL.com/situation room, and they have a clarification posted. It says type of review, puck over goal line. The result is goal Chicago. Clarification is the situation room informed the off-ice officials in the scorer's box that Frank Nazar's shootout attempt entered the net in a legal fashion immediately following the play and prior to Patrick Laine's shootout attempt. Okay, that told us nothing. That told us nothing. Those 2 referees, look at them right there. Vic, perfect. Look, they're both looking at it.
Well, hold on a second. Staring at it. You're getting hysterical and you're not listening to what I'm saying.
Yes,
so just
I am.
Back off the hysteria and listen to what I'm saying.
No, Colby, you're wrong here.
You don't even let me speak.
Hold on. This isn't right or wrong. The refs fucked up. There's nobody saying the refs didn't screw this up. Like, no, I'm not saying that they didn't. What I'm saying is if referees screw up, Frank, in the game of hockey, what's the fail-safe? Tell me what the fail-safe is when the refs miss an offside.
It's the situation room.
Okay, but that's all I'm saying. I'm not giving the refs a free pass here. I'm saying
but you said the screw up here.
Yeah, you did. You said
the biggest failure here, assuming the refs. Okay, so then the refs miss the call, just like they miss offsides, just like they miss a million other calls, and they have protocols in place for when that happens. Okay, why did the person upstairs not clear this goal, yes or no, in the shootout before the next shooter starts? That's why we have these protocols in place. Of course, the refs did the wrong thing here. That nobody's saying that they didn't.
But that's Johnny and I are both saying that that's not what you said the first time through, which is the reason for the hysteria.
I agree. That's where I think the main failure is here, because
I don't know how you give.
How do you have a main failure if the two guys looking at it didn't get it right?
Well, then, but hold on a second.
There is no failure if those guys get it right.
But what about, how's it any different than them not getting it offside?
Can I say something, please?
Linesmen are standing there on the lines. They miss offsides all the time. How's that different?
Can I say something here?
Well, I'm just wondering,
because it's one player going in to a net. It's not 5 guys entering a zone with a puck that may be 50 feet from you or 80 feet from you. This is 2 guys staring at one shootout attempt where nothing else in the building is happening, and they're within 15 feet of it, and both of them don't get it right.
They missed the
it's
call.
Not like there's other things going on the ice.
Right.
How do 2 guys lose sight of one puck?
Listen,
and then
I understand that. I understand that. I'm not excusing it, but this happens every day in hockey. Every day. This happens literally every day.
I guess what I'm saying is I've never seen this before. I've never seen
4 million games a year. There's a challenge in every game.
I've never seen both referees miss a puck.
One thing.
And then it was a failure on multiple levels, I think is the correct way to say it.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, listen, I'm not excusing the refs. They screwed up. They didn't do a good job. They missed a call, a blatantly obvious call. They missed it.
I think in the end, though, can we all agree that the way that it proceeded from there, whether they missed it or not, I think so. Well, I guess maybe not. Maybe I'm getting this wrong. The Blackhawks, like when Frank Nazar came back to the bench, he said that went in, and he said that Nick Foligno said, haha, good one, nice try.
Yeah.
No, it didn't. So they didn't think so. Does anyone think that the Canadians would have done something differently? Like, I think it proceeded in the same way, whether they had scored or not. Is that right? Do you agree with that?
I mean, it's easy to say that. I think, like, I mean, does it change Laine's shootout attempt if he has more if he has more pressure to score?
Yeah, it's not like he's like trying to score less, right?
Probably not. Yeah, like it's like I think the outcome is still the same, but like the rule, I think I saw someone post it last night too. The rule is if play continues, like technically they can't go back and call that a goal after Laine had shot. Like the call was deemed no goal. Laine shoots, then they go back and call it a goal. Like I saw that was the rule that they like once Laine goes, they can't then change what Nazar's result was. Which
did they make a call at all? Like did they officially say
they didn't signal goal. They definitely did not signal goal.
I didn't see them signal no goal either, though.
Which is why I'm just saying, how does somebody not have to clear that thumbs up or thumbs down before the next shooter?
Yeah, that part is fair. Like that should be
that is a massively broken protocol. And that's, you know, again, if I did not articulate myself well the first time I said it, then that is my point.
That's
here.
what Johnny usually does.
The failure of this, in my opinion, is as much on the people upstairs because that's what they're there for. They're there to help the other guys. So,
well, Colby, here's where I think you're wrong because, like you said, this happens in every game where this doesn't happen in every game. The 2 refs on the ice literally have one thing to pay attention to, and it's if that puck goes in the net. Like that's
I have never
no one off sides.
But I also think that you have a linesman and their only job is to call the lines. That's literally their main job, not their only job. I shouldn't.
But there's 10 guys on the ice.
I understand. These are professional refs, though, Johnny. Their job is to get it right. Their job is to call the lines. Like, you know, is it apples to apples? No. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
A shootout versus an offsides or a goalie interference. But my point of it is that you have a fail safe in place. How does it get by the fail safe?
Yeah.
Like that's a bigger fuck up to me than missing the original call. In my opinion, that's the bigger fuck up here. My opinion.
I'm surprised we're actually all three this fired up about it because that game.
Well, I mean, it's game 81 of the season, and playoffs are on the line. And like, I'm just thinking to myself, like, I covered maybe the biggest shootout ever in league history. Flyers Rangers game 82.
I remember that.
One goes to the playoffs, one goes home. Like, could you imagine if the same thing played out then?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I feel like depending on which way you want to come at it, you could say he maybe goes with a more conservative shootout attempt, or maybe the pressure makes it harder, or there's no pressure and it's easier. Like you could play that situationally. my personal opinion, Frank, because like there's obviously nothing in the rule book that says if in a shootout this happens and then you have to go back, like there's literally nothing in the rule book that states this. I think they made the right decision by calling it a goal. Like I don't think
it was clearly a goal.
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's the craziest part about this whole thing is like, I mean, it wasn't even a question. Like the puck was the Amazon. I don't know which feed you were watching. They had an unbelievable, they had an unbelievable view behind the net. Like while they were still debating it, they zoomed in. And they were like, guys, the puck is still in there, still there. Yeah. Like there was no debate whether it was a goal or not. It was just, it was missed. And then to your point, it was missed again before the next shootout attempt that it wasn't declared a goal. There should be a confirmation, to Colby's point, on every goal before the next shooter can proceed. And I'd imagine, see that? Like there was an unreal shot. Like they were standing over at the referee's crease debating this while the puck was literally still lodged there.
Yeah.
I guess they thought that it went out of play. That must have been what.
That's the only explanation.
Right. Yeah. People in our chat they're obsessed with your age. People in our chat just love, like they have their own conversations with themselves about how old you are. I don't think anybody.
As someone who actually knew me when I was 8, like you can attest to my age.
I have pictures of Frank and I from when we were little kids together because we played on the same hockey teams. And I can tell you this, Frank was a very good hocky player at that age. We played on select teams together. And his younger brother was a good hockey player too. And
do you have one of those pics? Send it to Vic. I used to have one on my desktop here.
I could probably dig one up while Johnny goes to the next question and we go to the next topic, and I'll try to dig one up and I'll send it to Vic.
And it's just a great day for the internet to once again pile on. It's a perfect day for me to audit my 32 bold predictions. So I'm it's been fun.
You had a fun day yesterday from what I saw.
Did I ever?
Can we dive into that or no?
Sure. Yeah, let's talk about the Logan Couture thing because I don't understand the outrage of Frank doing his job. It's crazy to me. Like I don't like people. Oh, you don't want to let him make his own announcement. Like people like go ahead, Johnny.
Well, Frank, I just want you to clarify your announcement yesterday because I'm sure you're hearing that from either Couture himself or the agent. Like it's not like you're hearing that.
Look, I refuse, and I never ever will divulge sources. But if someone thinks that I'd be willing to, at this point in 17 years into my career, risk my own credibility or reputation and having not had gotten the green light first to say what I said, you're out of your damn mind. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
I'm looking for this picture, so you're going to have to keep talking, Johnny.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm happy you clarified it just first of all. But secondly, I wanted to ask you about the late night game last night, if you caught that, between LA and Edmonton.
I watched it in its entirety.
So the post-game comments, Corey Perry.
I found one, Colby.
You did?
Corey Perry gets asked about, Danault's comments in between periods where he says they're playing their B squad trying to hurt us. And Perry basically was like, what else are we supposed to do? And, my question to you, Frank, is everyone talks about, the playoffs and how the format works and, too many games in a season and, why this last week or whatever is boring. But when we know the matchups, with like 2 weeks to go, like everyone's seeding is set basically, right? Like in the last 2 weeks for the most part. And then they schedule these teams to play against each other before the playoffs start. What are they supposed to do? If I'm Edmonton, of course I'm trying to fucking kill LA. That's who we're playing next week in a 7-game series. I'm with Corey Perry here. Like, what are they supposed to do?
Well, yeah, to your point, first off, the schedule was set last July.
Yeah.
Or June.
But these two teams have played 3 years in a row. What do they think is going to happen? They're going to play late in the season and not be in the playoffs?
Right. Well, yeah, it's very likely based on the way the seeding works. And beyond that, look at Edmonton's roster and how many pieces were not in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why extra precaution was thrown to Connor McDavid. Yeah, the Oilers playing 3 games in 4 days, want to be super careful. But it's, you don't want to give anything away. You don't want to give up one of your, one of the best players in the world to injury in a game that doesn't mean anything really much to you. It meant more to the Kings. The Kings have, and obviously that was reflected on the scoreboard. The Kings had a lot to play for to lock up home ice. They've got the best home record in the league. They want to try and put their best foot forward and give themselves an opportunity to beat the Oilers in round one for the first time in 4 years. First off, I think the prime takeaway from this is what was setting up to be one of the most boring first round series now has life. You've got Danault saying what he says, Perry saying what he says, and then you've got two teams that are hoping to, the Oilers are hoping to write a different story from their regular season and the way that it's ended. And the LA Kings are hoping to write a different story, period, and not lose to the same team in the first round 4 years in a row.
So when you say boring matchup, because I said that too before we started the show today, like what about it makes it boring for you? It's just that it's 4 years in a row, or
I would say if you had said this, 3 months ago, hey, the Kings and Oilers are going to meet in the first round again, I'd be like, all right, yawn. Like, of all the other first round matchups we're going to get, Dallas, Colorado, Battle of Florida, Battle of Ontario. Like if I were ranking the series in interest level, it would be something like that LA series might be like 6th, 7th, or 8th.
I think Vic and I were saying it's just boring right now because Edmonton's won it every time. Like it hasn't gone.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. There's not as much intrigue in it because one team it's gone 7 games, 6 games, 5 games. It's trended in the wrong direction every year.
Everyone seems to be in favor though that this is the year that LA is finally going to do it. Like I think that's the majority of the opinion.
I understand the thought process. What I would say is, in my opinion, this Oiler team is more vulnerable and susceptible than they have been at any point over these 4 playoff runs. And the other part is, in the end, if Edmonton's fully healthy, which obviously not having Mattias Ekholm, they won't be.
Yeah.
And that adds to their vulnerability, Cole. Yeah.
Even though Ekholm hasn't had his best season, Frank, he's been a little more inconsistent than we're used to seeing Ekholm play. Even an inconsistent Ekholm is better than 70% of the defensemen in the National Hockey League. Like he can play, that guy. Especially
puts a lot of added pressure on Jake Wallman, who is still obviously banged up himself. And then the bigger question for me with Edmonton is their goaltending. Like LA has a clear advantage in net. Could you have imagined saying that 1 year ago?
No, but I want to ask Joe Albanese's question here in the chat too, because it is a good one. If LA doesn't get it done this year, does Rob Blake have a job?
Really fair question. If the Kings lose in the first round this year to the Oilers, that will be 8 years of the Rob Blake experience as general manager, and he would have as many playoff round wins as the 3 of us, which is 0.
Did you guys see the cross check? Obviously, I don't know if you want to tee that up and we could talk about that a little bit. By the way, Cotter ended up getting 2 games, so I was wrong on that. My 1 game prediction on that, but I mean, that's like a dirtbag play, but that to me is like not that bad. Like I don't know. I'm not that bothered by that. That's pretty soft in my opinion. Like maybe a fine, but like I would be shocked if that's a suspension.
But I think they're setting a precedent right now of how dangerous it is to shove a guy's head into the ice. Like that's what they're trying to win, is it not?
I struggle with this one myself because my initial reaction is there's not that much here, and the game misconduct that he got is probably penalty enough. But then what Johnny's saying is true, that they've made a very clear and concerted effort to try and cut down on cross checks. And I think, with Edmonton having 1 game left, maybe the proper play is here to just make him sit out the final game and then be eligible for the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, It's definitely a little bit of a cheap hit, but I'm not that bothered by it. Like if you were to fine him $5,000, I'd be like, all right, like there's a little slap on the wrist, but like you really didn't make good contact. You really didn't drive his head directly into the ice, Johnny. Like, I don't know. But I also honestly, like, I thought 2 games for the Cotter thing was too much. Like I really did. I hated the outcome of that, but I wasn't.
What part about the hit did you like, I guess?
Well, I think that because in real speed, Frank, which we both know the game is played in real speed, I felt like he was trying to reach for a puck and he was committed. I felt like he tucked his arm. Like it didn't feel like he was targeting the guy there. It just felt like unfortunate consequence of being kind of in a vulnerable leaning forward position for Pelech. So like I understood a game, but I just didn't think that it was like purposeful enough to warrant more than 1 game. Now I think if they were to only had 1 more game and then it would have been their playoffs, I don't think he would have gotten a game.
That's how the Department of Player Safety works, though. They judge based on the outcome of, hey, playoff games are worth more than regular season games.
Yeah,
which generally a 2-to-1 ratio.
But I don't think that's how it should be, though. Like it's if you do the wrong thing, you do the wrong thing. What does it matter what time of year it is? Like that to me is the same as reffing the score, which I don't believe in reffing the score. I think a penalty is a penalty. Like, you know, like if it's in the last minute or if it's in the first minute, a penalty should be a penalty.
I want to add one more comment to this, though, quick, just because Jamie Benn does the same thing, 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago he did that to Mark Stone? Like, Stone hits him, Stone goes down, Stone's head is like a little bit above the ice, and Ben cross-checks him like right in the head. He gets 2 games in the playoff series, right? Dallas is down, I think, 3-0 in that series. Ben sits the next 2 games. These 2 teams are playing each other in the playoffs. Darnell Nurse makes a similar act, right? Byfield's one of the Kings' best players. Byfield doesn't return to the game. Vic, you're on fucking fire today. Byfield doesn't return to the game. Similar motion here. Like the head is above the ice. You cross-check him down.
That's a lot worse to me.
Yeah, I don't see this even
like close. A WWF like people's elbow. This was like The Rock being like right down on the guy, but with his stick.
It's also right in the middle of the play.
But the action to me is similar. It's cross-checking a guy in the head.
There's
you don't think so?
All right, so let's just say this. Prediction here.
King's best
player.
Do
you guys believe that Darnell Nurse gets suspended for this? I'm going on record saying no suspension, maybe a fine. Frank?
I'm going to say no because there was a game misconduct handed out, and they also view that as part of the punishment. So
okay, and what about you, Johnny?
Do the others have 1 game left? I think he gets suspended the last game of the season.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Like, you know, there's no right or wrong answer here until player safety comes out, and then we can tell Johnny why he's wrong. Vic, did you get the 2 pictures that I sent you to your email before we move on? Oh, there it is. There's Frank and I, with our serious faces, and there's this younger brother. Right
Yours is like pouty.
Yeah. Well, they told us to look serious at that age. You didn't really know how to look serious. I guess. Yeah.
That's what you look like.
I had another one that I sent Vic too. That was even more of a zoomed out one, but. I say it all the time. Frank was a good hockey player when we were kids. So, Frank, let me ask you this.
Sorry, I'm cheesing in the back.
Let me ask you this because I brought this up on the show yesterday.
Kind of like Adam Fox there, Frank.
We talked a little bit about David Carl yesterday, and that's been kind of buzzing around the internet. And I'm just curious, like, and it's funny, like my comments yesterday I certainly didn't intend to mean that, like, I thought he was going to the Blackhawks. My point was that I personally felt like he's like a month ago, I would have told you he's staying in college. He's not going to the NHL. Now I feel like, you know what? I could very well see him going to the NHL. So I'm going to know what you've heard about David Carl and the NHL. I'm also curious if you've heard anything about Pat Ferschweiler. And him going to the National Hockey League. And I know Pandolfo's name is out there. I'm very confident Pandolfo's going back to BU. I am very confident in that, more than I've probably been for the last few months. But what have you heard about the other 2 gentlemen? And is it all smoke? Is it real? Like,
no, there's definitely fire there. I think David Carl is at the top of more than one team's list. And when you're that in demand, you're going to have options and opportunity. And we've talked before. He's said it publicly. He said it on my podcast. We had a great conversation in January, just after the back-to-back gold medal wins at World Junior. And you've articulated this quite well. He doesn't need to leave. There's no push to go. Like, he could stay at Denver for the next 37 years and be incredibly happy. And that said, I just think enough teams are interested that it's going to drive up the price to the point where when you have a rookie head coach who has no experience that's making a jump like this, you'd get a nice package typically, but I think if he does make the jump, he's going to vault into the top 5 highest paid coaches in the NHL. And to do that, it's going to provide life-changing money and security for him. It's not just about the dollars, but I think there's going to be enough interested suitors that he's going to be a shot caller. Like, he's going to have say in the process of what building an NHL team looks like. And I do think that it needs to be done in a different way than has been previously. Like, that's the secret sauce of hiring David Carl, if there is any, is that as a head coach of a college program, you're not just thinking about, hey, I'm trying to coach this team in the here and now to a national title. I'm also trying to develop these players because I've got everything in mind. I've got my next class and the next class after that coming in. I've got guys that I want to move up in the program. I've got guys that I know are advancing and moving out and are going somewhere else. There's a lot to keep track of in today's NCAA world. And to do that as a head coach, coach the games, and be the general manager essentially at the same time, that skill set is very relatable in the sense that I think it lends itself really well to not a team that's squarely in the mix to win a Stanley Cup, but a team that's on the way up that he can then impact that process positively from both a development perspective and a team building roster perspective that so few other NHL head coaches can offer. Now, Pat Ferschweiler, on the other hand, I think everyone is looking at the connection that he has with Keith Jones and saying he's very likely to be on the list that the Flyers end up interviewing. But I was kind of like, as you know, I'm a casual college hockey observer. Like, I follow it. I understand what's happening. I was blown away by the interview yesterday on the Pat McAfee show.
I saw that.
Awesome. He went on. Yeah.
How, like, that's all legit? Like, that's all, like, they have a donor that's spending $515 million on a building?
Yep. They're getting a new building, a new practice rink, new athletic facilities. Like, they basically told him, you got make this the best there is in college hockey, basically excluding North Dakota, because that's a whole, like, there's North Dakota.
$515 million, you could build something better than North Dakota.
Yeah. Well, North Dakota is pretty special. I don't know if you've been to the route.
Yeah, I have. It's amazing.
I've never been.
Yeah. I mean, the details at North Dakota, like the floors are like marble. It's like,
and the suit beds on every seat.
Yeah, like
it's
cool. Not like a normal stadium for anywhere, but look,
so here's my question. If it's real, why would he leave? Like, why wouldn't the same guy just be paying him to stay, give him NHL money to stay?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no doubt to me that Ferschweiler should be up there, with David Carl, with as one of the highest paid coaches in college hockey. I think those figures are up in the 700,000 range these days.
So why isn't he getting $2 million a year to not, like, you're saying, hey, we're going to spend $515. Why don't you give Pat Ferschweiler $10 million over 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm sure that would work. He'd be happy with that. And I listen, I hope that happens, because I hope that raises the bar for what all these guys make. And I don't see it.
And David Carl has that opportunity, by the way, at the NHL level. Like, he could be the guy that helps raise the tide for current NHL head coaches, which is a fascinating thought.
What I think about David Carl, and I sort of like, I said this on Twitter yesterday, is that I think that Carl wouldn't, like, David Quinn came out of college to like a rebuild situation. Dave Haxtell I don't think he knew he was coming into a rebuild situation. I don't think the Flyers have openly ever said, but I think that was during the Ron Hextall era, I guess, where they were.
It was Ron Hextall's first hire.
They were talking about a rebuild at that time. Jim Montgomery was different. He gets hired in Dallas. Dallas was not in a rebuild when he gets hired in Dallas, right?
No.
If I remember, right? There was no rebuild happening in Dallas. So David Carl does not need to be hired for a rebuild. Like, if you're a team that thinks that they need to get over the hump and you need a great coach, like, I think he's just as good a fit for a team like the Rangers or any other. If there's a first round exit by the Edmonton Oilers or by someone else, and I'm not suggesting the Edmonton Oilers coach is on the hot seat. I'm just saying, like, I think David Carl shouldn't just be looked at in a rebuild situation to be a head coach, because everyone's just assuming it's Chicago.
And I'm
going to disagree with you there, though.
Go ahead. Let's hear why.
Just because I think of a lot of the reasons that I mentioned about team building, if he were to step into a situation okay, let me rewind for a second. If you go, and I don't know if I'm going to pull it up real quick, but if you go to David Carl's Twitter feed, David Carl's, one of his last tweets is he retweeted something that I put out. And I'm not saying that to toot my horn. I'm saying it's the tweet that I sent was, in 184 games that the Boston Bruins lost just 41 times in regulation under Jim Montgomery. 41 times in 184 games. And I actually asked him about that. And he said the reason he retweeted it was to point out, to say there's lunacy in the way that NHL head coaches are fired with unbelievable records. These guys are quite literally hired to be fired. So when you take David Carl and you inject him into a team that has the ultimate pressure to win because they believe they have a roster that is set to be a cup contender, I'm not saying that he can't coach that team, because I think he could and be successful, to your point. What I'm saying is, I think that's the wrong situation for him, because what it does is it goes against every single part of his reasoning and thought process, which is, I want to build something and I want to do it in lockstep with the general manager, and I want to have a seat at the table. You're not getting that on a contending team.
Right.
No contending team is ceding that to you. And the second you walk in the door, your ass is on the line. I'm not saying there's no pressure in coaching a rebuilding team. I'm just saying it's not what I think he's better suited to be in a spot where he can grow with a team.
And all that makes sense, Johnny, before you jump in here.
Yeah.
All that makes complete sense, Frank. The only thing that I would say, and I have had a front row seat to this on numerous occasions with my job, being between the benches, he's one of the best in-game adjusters I've seen. I've said this publicly before. He's got an iPad for a brain. He says Jim Montgomery has an iPad for a brain, and he's not even close. I disagree, because I watch him, right? But Bruce Cassidy has one of those brains. Jim Montgomery has one of those brains. David Carl has one of those brains. So if you did drop him into a situation where, let's just say, a team's got to win a playoff series, his ability to adjust on the fly mirrors what I saw playing for Bruce Cassidy, which I think is the best I've ever seen. And that's where my comments come from.
I have zero
I think
surprise.
He could do really well in that situation.
I think he'd do well in any situation.
Where that comment comes from.
I think he would do well in any situation. I really do. I mean that. I think he's just so much more than an in-game coach, that he's got these other facets to him that makes him a unique candidate that I don't think anyone else brings to the table, at least in this hiring class.
Can I tell you guys something that
can you let me fucking speak? You guys
hold on. Let me just finish one more story. One more story. He was explaining to us how
timeout, Vic.
He charts every practice at Denver. It's charted, it's saved, it's in a file. He can go back and look at what he did 2 years ago on February 12th for practice. He also has a system set up where him and his strength coach are in such good lockstep that he gives him the practice. His strength coach runs it through the simulation of data that they keep. And he can tell David, here's what the workload will be for every practice, for every player throughout practice, based on their baseline numbers of information that they take on players and data. So he's able to put his practice plans together, and he's able to say, this is where our team is going to be by Thursday for our games on Friday, Saturday, from like a load standpoint and like a work standpoint. And like, he's explaining this to me, and I'm just like, this guy is like a mad scientist on top of having command, on top of having the people skills. Like, it was mind blowing to me. Now, you can't do this in the NHL because
you don't practice.
Well, there's also NHLPA rules about data collection on.
No, they have all that information. That's all. They use all that same stuff.
They can't use Catapult in the NHL. You're wrong.
They use wrong. Catapult in every NHL practice.
They're not allowed to use the Catapult data. You should check with the NHLPA on
you want to bet on this? You want to bet?
Yeah, that's sure.
All right, let's bet.
My dad's laughing at you guys.
Because they use all Catapult data in all practices. You can go on Catapult's website and look at their list of clients and see the 14 to 18 NHL teams that they have on there.
There's way different limitations and what they can do with Catapult in the National Hockey League based on the NHLPA, based on the fact that players don't want that used against them in contract negotiations.
The only place they can't use it is games. They can use all the data from practice that players willingly. It's their own option whether or not to wear the garter that has the thing in it.
So how do they get the data if they're not wearing the garter, and if players are the ones who
no one says no, they all wear it for practice.
Got it. So it's an optional mandatory thing, basically, is what you're saying?
Pretty much, but no one pushes back against it.
Can you send that to me so I can like see the literature on that I'm wrong? I just need to.
You could just ask NHL players if they.
I was talking to Marcus Foligno about this last week, and they were all wearing them at morning skate.
All wear them in practice, dude. It's all good in practice. It's all fair game. They're not allowed to collect game data, but teams are doing it anyway from the IR infrared sensors that are in the arena with the chips in their jersey, that they're getting all the data they need anyway. So whether they like it or not,
players have the option to say they're not doing it.
Yeah. Players always have the option. They have the option to say, hey, coach, I'm not wearing my shot blockers. I'm not wearing all these other things.
And data collection.
We'll text Brant Berglund about this. He'll let us know. We can ask Brant.
He has all that?
He should, probably. He's the one like in charge of all of it. No?
Colby's in locker rooms, or not Colby. Johnny's in locker rooms all the time. They all wear the Catapult.
Yeah. Minnesota had him like out on display last week.
They walk around with them on after they take their gear off.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I stand corrected. I thought the NHLPA had a problem with that, and they put the kibosh on that.
Kibosh?
Yeah.
Never heard that before.
Kibosh, I've never heard anyone say kibosh before. Can I speak now though about David Carl?
Yeah. After that, that's how you bring yourself back into the conversation.
You must.
I mean, I think I'm pretty patient here, just sitting, waiting for you guys to shut up. But the point I wanted to make 10 minutes ago.
He probably wants to talk about the Rangers, Frank. So just be prepared.
No. I think the college coaches now coaching the NHL too, Colby. Like you look at college roster or NHL rosters across the league now, there are a lot of college players on the NHL rosters as opposed to 10 years ago where there was maybe 2 or 3 college guys you can pick out on an NHL roster. Like I think the guys understand how college coaching works now and how NHL coaching works now, but you can blend the two together with where the NHL is as far as guys coming out of college. Like I think so if David Carl were to use his methods that he uses at Denver, guys would be more welcome to it because they understand, because they've now played in college as opposed to 10 years ago where guys were mainly coming out of the CHL. I mean, maybe that's just I don't have like the fact to back it up, but I know that college now is way more prevalent or relevant than it was.
Yeah, there's way more college NCAA players.
So I think the players understand. They understand those methods more now than they would have back in 2015. And I was listening to NHL radio yesterday in the car, and John Cooper had a comment about like how him and Julien BriseBois had been together, and BriseBois was an assistant GM in Tampa, and how they basically like grew together and they were so in line with one another. And that's why they've had so much success, because they've just been, tied together for so long. And, now we see GMs come in, they're not on the same page as head coaches, and then the coach gets fired, but the GM stays, and GMs aren't fired nearly as quickly as coaches are, even though they're the ones putting the rosters together for that coach to have to coach. So GMs are safer than coaches, which to me sometimes makes no sense because, and I will make it about the Rangers now, while Peter Laviolette maybe hasn't done the best job this year, look at the roster turnover he's had to deal with. And that's all the GM. That's not the coach saying, let's go trade guys. You know what I mean?
Oh, there's no doubt that Chris Drury's in with the They started 12-4. Like, that's the part that I think is lost on a lot of people. The fact that the Rangers were kind of in the mix over the last 2 to 3 weeks, like mathematically and statistically, shows you the flaw in the NHL's points gathering system. That if you start 12-4, or in the Rangers case, the day after Chris Drury had sent the memo that that Kreider and Trouba are available, they were 12-7 that day.
Yeah. And the last point I wanted to make, Frank, I said it yesterday on DFO Live, the coaching hirings now, people are talking about Tortorella getting the next job and all these coaches that, have won a cup. They've won one. Paul Maurice is talked about right now as the best coach in one of the best.
I felt like that was like a backhanded, like Peter Laviolette thing.
What do you mean? Yesterday? What I said yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, I think he was hired 2 years ago just based on reputation because he's been to a couple cup finals. He went to a cup final.
I mean, he won a cup and has taken 3 separate teams to a cup final. That's about as good of a track record as you can have.
But there, like I said to you yesterday on that show, only 3 coaches in the history of the league have won a cup in 2 different places.
Yeah, only but that, I feel like the stat was kind of misleading. Like, for exactly what I just said, like, he's as close as anyone has been. Just because his team didn't win 2 or 3 more games that season, did it make him any less of a really good coach?
Of course not. But I'm saying, like, they just went with the hire that had the resume. Maybe not the best hire for what the team was.
Well, here's the real truth about the Rangers. That is the uncomfortable part. I don't care who's the head coach. If you don't find better personnel to defend better in front of Igor Shesterkin, it doesn't matter who is the coach.
Listen, I fully agree.
David Carl, Rick Tocchet, Peter Laviolette, Gerard Gallant, throw any guy you want out there. It's not going to change.
I'm fully on board with you. I think the players were the problem.
The personnel has been the issue.
And I've been saying that all year. Like,
I'd say the same thing about the Red Wings. You're not making the playoffs. I don't care if you have Todd McClellan, Jeff Blashill, whoever is the head coach there. It doesn't matter. You have to get better defensemen.
Things were as good as they could have possibly been last year for the New York Rangers. They were at their absolute best, and it still was not good enough. It's on the players.
Frank, I was just reading your story that you did on that, and I was laughing at the part where it said that after the memo was sent out about players being able to request to have their data destroyed or whatever, a bunch of players did it, and I don't believe that for 2 seconds. Like, why would the
team actually destroyed it?
Yeah, like, why? If they have that data, there's no way they're destroying it, request or not. Like, there's a backup.
That's why we were able to enlighten you today.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
They've been using Catapult for 10 years now.
I couldn't have been more wrong about that. I thought the
Flyers used to have like a huge, like.
No, I know, but I thought that the NHLPA and the last time they negotiated, I thought that was like a hot topic of data collection, and I guess that's when it became like the players found out that they could ask for these things to be removed or whatever. But I don't believe that a team would actually do that. Like, why would you do that?
Well, they're supposed to. If you send a written request from yourself or your agent, that the data is supposed to be deleted immediately.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I just accept, I guess, with everyone else that, like, whether you want it or not, you're being tracked. And the sooner you get your head around it, the better off everyone is.
Yeah, it appears that way. So, is there anything we missed today, Frank, that's newsworthy that you've got cooking that we didn't talk to you about? I know we kind of went all over the place with you today.
Not particularly. Another kerfuffle yesterday with Tom Willander and the Canucks.
Well, let me actually back you up on that for a second, though, because
okay.
Like, Tom Willander is going to sign with the Canucks. Like,
yeah, I have zero doubt of that.
Yeah, like I could tell you with certainty that, and the same thing, he will sign. Like, he's not playing college hockey next year.
This is a negotiating tactic.
Yeah.
For bonuses that'll play itself out however it will, because there's formulaic entry-level contract stuff. I'm not saying the Canucks will bend. I'm not saying Willander will bend. I'm just saying at some point it will end with him signing an entry-level deal. And the point for Canucks fans was to say, stop the panicking and freaking out, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's a good player. Like he's going to be a quiet top 4, quiet, calming.
That's exactly what they need. They desperately need that.
Yeah. That kid is, he's good. If you're a Canucks fan, you should be excited because again, he's just a mistake-free type of hockey player, like just really, really good, sound defenseman who can skate really, really well. And Zach, you don't have to ask Johnny what he thinks because we're not worried about that. So,
I'm sure Frank, the YouTube comments will like that one.
Why? What? Oh, you mean the YouTube people that they think? Right? Yeah.
Who's taking more of a beating, me in the last 24 hours on social media, or Johnny today?
No,
it's every day. I don't know what to.
But then the people in the YouTube comments, like they just, I mean, they literally come to the comments and they're just like, Johnny, you should get rid of Colby. Don't work with Colby. Like they all just like want to see Johnny and I have a big breakup.
My dad's laughing. He's cracking up behind me right now.
I'm glad your dad's here because I wanted to talk to him earlier about you blaming everything on him all the time.
I blame all my faults on you, Dad.
He literally blames you for everything.
Yeah, he just said I'm a P-U-S-S-Y.
Yeah, all right.
Thanks for spelling that out.
Well, Frank, have a good day. Anything planned for anything special or out of the ordinary for Daily Face-Off today, or just
no? We're going through my 32 bold predictions from earlier in the season, which is. That makes for an uncomfortable half hour.
How bad are they? Like, is there some bad ones?
Yeah, I mean, I said the Lightning won't make the playoffs. There's a whole host of them. I said Ovi wouldn't get the record, which starting out the season to think that he could score 42 was like still crazy.
I don't think that's so bold though. I think most people thought he wouldn't do it this year.
Look how that looked.
Yeah, no, John Butchergross, who thought it would happen a long time ago, 15 years ago.
Chef Richard's been DMing me like all week saying like, you got to go back and listen to your preview about the Winnipeg Jets because Colby said they would have made the playoffs. Like he's been begging me to bring it up on the show. And I don't remember you saying
wouldn't make the playoffs.
I guess. I don't remember you saying that, but I guess.
Wow. I mean, listen, Chef
Yeah.
Richard would know because that's his team. I'm shocked that I said they wouldn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, he kept the receipts. So
wow, that's like you saying that Washington wouldn't make
Washington
the playoffs.
would miss.
Yeah. Well, listen.
Yeah, it happens.
You go out on a public forum and you have an opinion, you're going to be wrong
Look,
sometimes.
I think what this says more than anything is how insanely difficult it is to predict this sport. Every year, there's 3 to 4 playoff teams that no one saw coming. And that means the inverse, that there's 3 to 4 teams that miss. Who saw the Bruins missing the playoffs this year? Honestly.
You're just trying to make yourself feel better.
No, what I'm saying is there's a reason why the Caps and the Jets, after winning their respective divisions, quote tweeted or screenshotted. Go find the tweet. They screenshotted all of the division winner selections from Sportsnet and NHL.com and sent it out, or ESPN, and said, hey, look, like, congratulations, guys. Not one person picked the Caps to win the Metro on either media outlet. Not one person picked the Winnipeg Jets to win the division in either media outlet. How is that possible that if not one person, that's not consensus or groupthink, it's what happened here was unpredictable.
I actually know of one, I think. I'm pretty sure Nate Thompson said on Empty Netters that the Winnipeg Jets will win the division.
Okay, that doesn't count. What the point is,
it should count for something.
We had 30 some people listed from 2 separate outlets that no one, I'm not saying did someone on planet Earth pick. I'm saying no one from these 2 outlets picked either team to win the division.
Well, and who thought Montreal and like a rebuild, like, you know, it's
I picked Utah to make it. Like I did try and make it bold, but I had Vancouver in. Like I didn't.
Ronnie liked Utah too because he said they had nice vibes.
I had Utah and Seattle
because of vibes.
No, Seattle wasn't vibes.
I don't expect to see I don't expect to see Dan Bialsma coach a playoff series probably ever again in the National Hockey League.
Let's put
he might not be coaching them next season.
Wow, you think that quickly, huh?
I think it's entirely possible that Dan Bialsma is one and done.
Who would they promote someone on the staff or would they go outside?
Don't know.
Okay. All right, we kept you for an hour today. Sorry.
I think he wanted to stay. He was having fun.
Kind of messed up for us. He likes arguing with me.
Yeah,
so
he was having fun.
Well, you started off the show by saying that the biggest fault of the goal review was the guy upstairs when the two guys standing 10 feet from it both missed it. That was your takeaway. So I had to stay.
That was inferred. That was inferred. All right, kick him out. I don't want to hear about me being wrong anymore. Get rid of him, Vic.
Yeah, that was great stuff. Thanks for letting me speak. I appreciate it.
All right, you can talk now, okay?
Yeah.
You can talk for the rest of the show.
Well, can we actually like kind of wrap it up? I got to get going here. I'm bringing my dad actually today to the Bleacher Report office for a little like bring your dad to work day. And
all right, well, do me a favor. Cool. Treat him the right way and don't blame everything.
He knows
on
it.
him.
He'll come in and tell you.
No, listen, don't put him on the spot.
Why was I not
like
competitive?
That. No,
Dad?
Johnny.
Why
Johnny,
was I not competitive?
You don't need to put him on the spot like that. Let's get through the show and let's end it. But just be a good son. All right. Try not blaming the guy for everything. All right. Why don't you? Hey, you hit your bet last night for Bet365.
Yes,
so why don't you give us a winner 2 nights in a row?
Yes, we did. I'm actually forgetting what oh no, I remember now. All right, so let's get into our bet of the night presented by Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner, every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. So download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION, NATION in all caps to get in on the game. You must be 19 or older, so please play responsibly. And tonight, Darcy's going to be happy. Catherine's going to be happy. We are going with the Columbus Blue Jackets on the money line. They're still alive. They've won 4 games in a row. They're on the road in Philly tonight, and Philly has been a total disaster. I mean, they've won 2 out of their last 3, but this team is beyond inconsistent. Their goaltending is horrible, and Columbus is hot. They're staying alive. They're 4 points out of the playoffs. There's still a chance for them to squeeze in. I don't think they do it. I think Montreal finds a way to pick up a point in their last game, but I'm not going to root against the Blue Jackets to keep it competitive. So minus 150, a little bit of juice, but not too much. But hopefully they keep the hot hand going here tonight and take care of business in Philly.
Okay. All right. Do you have to finish the read there or no?
That's it.
All right. Well, I'm just curious because Tommy T brought it up. So I did you see his comment about Alexis Lafreniere's output this season? Or
I don't even want to talk about it.
Okay. All right. 45 points is a decent year, right?
Is it 45? 45?
That's a rough year in 81 games.
Jesus. Yeah, it's terrible.
57 last year, but 45 this year.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah. I mean, listen, maybe he'll have a big finale.
He'll be comeback player of the year next year. Call it now.
Right. We'll do a little maybe tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Wednesday. Maybe tomorrow we'll look at some of the non-playoff teams and we can look at like where do they go next.
Well, there might be some stuff to talk about still tonight or tomorrow, Colby, because Calgary's still in the mix. If Columbus wins tonight, there's still a chance for them. The Wild, if they win tonight, like they clinch, like there's still implications. The Blues, like that Western Conference wildcard race is very much alive tonight in those 3 games. The Blues play, the Wild play, and the Flames play. So we probably should dive into that race.
Who do you think when it settles, when it all settles, like, do you think there's going to be a change from what we see now?
It'd be pretty crazy. I mean, it'd be crazy if the Blues fall out. Like they were the hottest team. They had that 13-game win streak. And, right now, if they lose tonight, like Calgary's right there. I mean, the Blues are home against Utah. Calgary's home against Vegas. I believe Vegas's fate is set, so this game shouldn't really matter for them. But what? They're gonna play.
LA's 4 behind Vegas.
There's 2 games left, but Vegas has more regulation wins, so they should be set.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not if Vegas loses their last 2 games and LA wins their last 2 games.
No,
then they've got 49 wins too. Then they both finish with 49 wins. So then you'd start going to tiebreaker.
I guess tiebreaker. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So
yeah,
you got to think Vegas.
Should we get Russo on tomorrow to talk Minnesota? Z Boyan makes his debut tonight.
Yeah, that would be a good guest.
Yeah,
I'll definitely be watching that game. Like I love Z Boyan. I fucking love that kid. I got a chance to spend some time with him at the Frozen Four. Once they were out of the tournament, I got to spend a little bit of time with him and what he's got such an old school mentality too. Like we were talking about like the players who like get drafted and they don't want to sign with certain teams. And he's like, man, if I got drafted by a team on Mars, I would sign. Like, he's like, I would go anywhere. So I would say the Zeev Buium regret tour for the other teams that skipped him in the first 10 or 11 picks or whatever, that starts tonight. Just like the Ivan Demidov regret tour started last night for the teams that didn't draft
Chicago too
in the first couple of picks. So Lev Shunov has looked pretty good, but yeah, I mean, like, who knows there, right? So
I thought Renzel was really good last night.
What'd you say?
I thought Renzel was really good last night.
He's just been really good since he came into the NHL. Like, it's been pretty seamless for him. So, all right, that's what we got for today. Make sure you give us a like on this episode. Make sure you comment. Make sure you subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. Thanks to Frank today for sticking with us for almost an hour. You could catch him obviously here in the next 11, 12, 2 hours for Daily Faceoff Live with him and Tyler. And then, as always, Jeff and his gang with Zach at 3 p.m. on the sheet as we start inching our way towards playoffs, which is right around the corner. I'll remind you all that starting next week, we will have 5 days in a row, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We will do that for the remainder of playoffs. Johnny was already belly aching about, was it next Friday's first playoff week show?
Next Friday, I'm in Austin, Texas for one of my best friend's bachelor parties. So I'm actually staying at the house Thursday night to watch hockey and doing the show Friday morning.
Okay. Or maybe we just have to find someone to tap in for you that day.
I
want to make it out.
I want to do the show. I said, I'm either coming Friday and missing Thursday night entirely, or I'm staying at the house Thursday night and watching hockey and doing the show Friday. So that was,
I'm sure nobody will convince you to go out.
I'm pretty strong-willed. I'll probably have some drinks at the house, but I'm going to do the show.
You don't watch anyway. You're too busy tweeting about hockey and to watch it. Come on. All right, listen, we hope everybody has a good day today. We hope, again, you give the episode a like and you give us a comment on the episode. Just let me know. I think the word of last week or the week before in the comments was insufferable. Can we get a new adjective this week? Like, I want to see a new team effort on a good adjective. So get in the comments. Let us know how insufferable or other. Let everybody know how it's messed up that Johnny's constantly blaming everything on his dad, which, again, not a big fan of how he does that. I think his parents are wonderful people. He should really just be thankful to his dad instead of blaming everything on him. But look, have fun at Bleacher Report. Try to stay out of trouble. Don't steer your dad down the wrong path. All right. Don't sit in any player stalls. We hope everybody has a great day. And we'll see everybody back here, as always, 9 a.m. tomorrow.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.